Morning.
Good morning.
Morning. Morning.
Oh, good morning, all.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So it looks like we have Tyrone and Kim. Okay. I know AJ is probably not joining. Let's give it another maybe 2 or 3 minutes to allow others to join.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Morning.
Christina, if you haven't already, can you see where some folks are?
No answer as of yet, but I will keep you posted if I bet I have reminded them all.
Okay, well, in the interest of time, this is more of an update and awareness, plus this is being recorded, so I think we're good. So good morning, everyone. As chairman of Hartford's Board of Ed, want to welcome you to October's 14th Committee of the Whole. As I mentioned earlier, nothing to be voted on. This is very much an update of recent events that have taken place throughout the district. And the superintendent and her team will provide us with some information The purpose for this particular call is I wanted to make sure that the board had the opportunity to ask questions and hear from the superintendent before our regular board meeting on Tuesday. So nothing comes as a surprise to folks. With that being said, Superintendent, I will turn it over to you to give us, again, kind of a update of what you can share, as I know this is still a very active investigation, but at the very least, what you're able to share as it relates to incidents over the past week and a half.
Thank you, Chairman. And yes, I'll focus my overview, if you will, on incidents specifically relevant to Hartford High and Weaver, and then some next steps that truly are geared to extend beyond those two school communities in efforts to continue to keep our community, one, informed, but also safe. With regard to Hartford High, there was an incident the week before last in which a student did bring in what looked like a firearm. It was not a firearm, it was a BB gun. Nonetheless, it did trigger the entire school to go on lockdown. And we also heard conversations about potential groupings that might have been outside of the school building. And so as a result of that, the team did conduct last week and this week, still all week this week, wandings and searches. No weapons and no contraband have been found. And the safety checks will continue this week. We do have a partnership with Compass Peace Builders, and members of the school, the district safety team, the school safety team, and team members from Compass Peace Builders did collaborate and presented to Hartford Public High School staff a presentation on youth violence, group affiliation challenges in the community, and Peace Builders referral processes. And specifically, staff at Hartford High wanted to get more information as to how they go about recognizing group affiliated signs, activities, or behaviors. And so some of the presentation focused on that. As it relates to next steps for Hartford High, the wanding and the safety checks will continue into next week. I'll with regard to shift now to Weaver, and we did have last week an incident in which two firearms were found in the school. And then, of course, the school went on lockdown. I want to highlight the fact that the school, the leadership team, the staff, the students did see something, they heard something, and they reported and said something. So I want to acknowledge that, and also the response that immediately happened. We, in the spirit of making sure that we did a comprehensive examination of the entire campus, I did request over the weekend a search of all lockers and the entire school campus to be searched in partnership with the K-9 division of the Department of Corrections. And there was in fact a third firearm that was found in a locker. And as a result of that, we are working very closely with Hartford Police Department. The investigation is still ongoing, and searches, wanding and bag searches did happen all last week. No weapons, no contraband were found. And the plan is to continue those safety checks into next week. On Tuesday, we did have, Monday was a holiday, and we didn't have any students in school. And we did have Hartford Police Department provide a patrol car in the morning and at dismissal. The district safety team met with school staff to address their concerns and also gather ideas and suggestions about their thinking as to safety protocols, responses, and prevention. We also had peace builders in the school and present throughout and engaging with students this week. There's a parent meeting last night that was held, and parents also shared their concerns and their ideas as to how we should be moving forward. And with regard to overall safety responses and the weeks to come, sorry, let me kind of backtrack here as it relates to central office and our district team. So on Wednesday of this week, Hartford Police Department and representative from Department of Corrections, their SRG, Safety Risk Group team member, presented to myself and my and our leadership team, including cabinet and principal supervisors, as to just the state of youth violence and trends across the region. On yesterday, there was a meeting, and some of you, Chairman and Ms. Escribano, met with, and Ms. Oliver, myself, some of my team members, and representatives at the cities, at the city of Hartford, specifically focusing on services available to youth, collaborative structures, and to specifically talk through some of the limitations that we have with regard to data privacy. And so there's more that's happening after that. I know that, for example, the city is working with folks in the juvenile division with regard to sharing information when youth are released or transitioning back into the school settings. Later on this afternoon, our district safety team members and peace builders, Compass team members are going to touch base again, review our referral processes and protocols, specifically toward the youth that either party identifies to be exhibiting risk factors. Next week, a separate meeting will take place between Hartford Public Schools, Hartford Police Department, peace builders, leadership, and representatives and leadership from the city of Hartford, again, to kind of look at some of those system level processes, protocols, and cross-agency collaboration. As it relates to schools, we are extending wanding and searches both at Weaver and at Hartford High. At this point, we have gotten requests from McDonough for searches and wanding, given observations from staff as to group affiliated signs and conversations that have been overheard by adults coming from students. And so we we have not decided to do that yet due to a capacity issue. One thing I noticed when I was at Weaver earlier this week during the searches and the wanding is that there was a significant delay for students, and students were late. They missed advisory period, and they were late to their first period class because it takes time to search students and their bags. And so and we pull security officers from across the district to facilitate the searches, and having searches at two schools makes impacts our ability to support a third school. A few more points here. On Wednesday, the 19th, we are having and this was previously scheduled, our ALICE training for all school administrators. The ALICE stands for Alert, Lockdown, Inform, Counter, and Evacuate. And so we did have our active shooter, if you will, training for central office back in July. And so this is now we're going to continue with our school leaders and working to identify the next opportunity in the fall for all district staff across all of our schools. I have ordered 6 rotating metal detectors that we will use to have across available to use across the district. This will help with anytime we need to do the wanding and kind of relieve the pressure on us having to pull 10 officers, 10 to 12 officers from across all the other schools to support. And we also know that we can have the rolling metal detectors in storage and or deployed to stay at a school, say for, a week, 2 weeks, depending on if a situation emerges and we need to have them for a more extended period of time. Again,
Yeah,
they're
super.
not, oh, sorry.
Actually, so that's a lot of great information and updates. I just wanted to maybe pause for a minute here to see if any of my colleagues have questions or comments.
Thank you.
If you could just, Mr. Walker, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. I'll be really brief. Yes, Superintendent, this is great information. My only feedback is it would be terrific if you had like a timeline that you can present so people can see the activity. I think people would feel better if they actually could see, wow, all these activities taking place. And it does seem to be couched with a sense of concern, safety, and trying to be efficient. It also, I think, be helpful because there's already a little bit of controversy about using metal detectors. I think the use of them in a temporary fashion seems appropriate. I think your recitation of all the work you've had to do would at least explain and kind of give some justification as to why they would be a helpful adjunct to using the security staff at a school level. That's
Board
it.
Member Brody.
Good morning. So I have quite a few questions and comments. One, for me to learn a lot of this today doesn't sit well with me, just not being informed, because this has been talked about in the community and I have no effective response other than to dodge the question. So, and I've mentioned that over the years. So that's one thing. Two, when I immediately heard about the Weaver incident, I'm wondering, I know it was once sent to for the Hartford School Building Committee to discuss the fact that all the meetings I ever had separately with the contractors, with the school building committee chair, the Weaver fire alarm system, that we didn't get what the design called for. And that's still problematic. It's still on the table. And if you've ever been in Weaver High School and you try to use your cell phone, reception is absolutely horrible. So this fire alarm system needs to be revisited. I don't know if the representatives from this board that's on the Hartford School Building Committee, if they need to lift it, push it. We did not get what we approved as a board, and I'm assuming what we paid for. Third, I don't have an appropriate response because I'm just hearing this today. Our deep involvement, or maybe it's not described as deep involvement, but I've heard Connecticut Department of Corrections. I've heard that multiple times. And I'm like, okay, Department of Corrections, high school students from Hartford. That's third. Lastly, there was no mention, we mentioned Compass Peace Builders, but we never mentioned the lead partner in the school, Blue Hill Civic Association, as far as working with the students. So how do they tie into, because they're working with the students, and I'm assuming, well, we didn't get a report this go round when the contracts came up, but if I have to rely on the work and scope that they provided last year, it had to do with students that had those that were at risk or at risk of like the type of population, and they have a relationship, right, with the students. So I didn't hear them mention at all, and they're actually in the school day to day. Those are my 4 items.
Thank you, Ms. Brody. Christina, can you, let's make sure that I guess we have everyone's correct email address, because I do know there were several communications sent out to the board. And again, I think this was the genesis of this call, was to make sure that everyone received the information at the same time and were able to pose their questions. So I just want to make sure that that we have everyone's email address, and that that everyone's informed. In terms of the fire alarm, I think that's a separate issue that we should definitely take a look at. But today, I really want to focus on, I would say, potential youth violence that is potentially emerging. Seeing if there's any other questions from either Jahira or Francois or Kim.
Hi there. Good morning, guys. No questions here. I just want to say I do have a hard stop at night, just in case this does go over, but I just want to thank the entire team, the super her team, Thea, her team, the City of Hartford's Department of Children and Families, everyone involved. And as the superintendent said, there are some gaps and there are some challenges, particularly around data sharing with those youth who are either group affiliated or have experienced violence. So I look forward to us working more together and collaborating and filling in those gaps. So I just wanted to just make that comment. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Acabano.
And this is Kim. Yeah, I just wanted to echo that. Obviously, many of you know that I was the former director for Families, Children, Youth, and Recreation, where, at least from the City of Hartford perspective, youth safety and justice sits. Obviously, I'm no longer in that role, but I think in terms of people understanding the work, whether it's through the superintendent and her staff, or people want to have conversations with me, I invite that. The question I have for you, Superintendent, I know you have the spoke to the metal detectors in the rolling and having those resources available. I think it also would be helpful, in addition to what Member Walker said, is to perhaps also just speak to what is part of the decision making for deciding to go ahead and putting those out. So again, just making sure that as much as possible, people have a shared understanding of that, I think would be helpful. That's all I have. Thank you.
If I may very quickly add another request to Ms. Oliver's point. Christina, I know this was prior to some of the newer board members being here. I know there was presentations about all of the groups that HPS is collaborating with and that the city's helping with. I think it might be good for us as board members to have a refresher on that again. So maybe, I don't know if we do it as a board or we do a separate committee of the whole presentation, but I think it's worth us having a refresher and level setting with all those programs and getting like, okay, this is a lot of going on, right? So I think it's important for us to have that information and really understand who we're looking at, right? Those particular students with the super high needs. Thank you.
Superintendent, I know we're bumping up against time here. Is there anything else on this particular topic that you wanted to share?
The only other bullet point I had was the team is working in starting to think about right, what are some of the community conversations that need to happen more broadly as it relates to youth and youth supports. I envision that potentially can be in partnership with the folks at the city's Department of Youth and Family.
And I believe there was another agenda item that you wanted to touch on briefly. Or is that it?
That's it for the superintendent, and then we'll move on to Chief Davis Gooch for the
Okay.
action item.
Thank you, Superintendent.
You're welcome.
Moving on to the next item. Chief Davis Gooch.
Yes. Good morning. We're here today just to get an update on the Burns project and the need for their FF&E information to be shared with you all, and the Hartford School Building Committee is the next phase. We had talked about this phase prior to it. Basically dealt with the need to do the wiring for the telephones, but based on the schedule, it's time again to address the FF&E needs. So I'm going to turn it over to the Arcadis team, along with Mr. Jorgensen, the architect, to just give us a deep dive.
Good morning, everyone. I'm going to share my screen if I can. Great, okay. If you can see that, this is just an introduction slide showing the project update. And as Sherry had just mentioned, previously approved was the school phone package. And that was the reason that was previously approved was we needed those devices in each of the new classrooms as the renovation continued, for communication with the main office and for life safety concerns. We wanted all those new phones in place. Now we're finding out that, and everyone hears about supply shortages, many of the technology items that we'll be buying for the school are in short supply, meaning that they're going to take months and months to order and to get for the school. And because of the long lead time on many of these items, we're recommending as a team with our ONG and Arcadis and our office and the construction manager, going through the state grant process for the entire technology package now, even though it's early in the project, and then we can procure the equipment as needed. Some items we're going to have to order right away, and they're going to take 8 months or 9 months or a year to get. Other items are quicker, and we can wait and order them as we need them during the course of the project. So that is the general reason why we're here, is to come before you to share that we need to move the process quicker now because things are taking longer to order. Yeah, I don't know if anyone has any questions on the update in that way. The rest of the presentation is simply going through very quickly what the package looks like for the state. So we have the state grant process. So we start out with our drawings, and we have a full drawing list showing locations of all the technology. We also include the lists of all the equipment that we will be ordering by state contract. And we've worked with Hartford MHIS and to determine, and with the principal, to determine what devices, what equipment will be needed for the renovated building. So we go through our legends, and I'll fly through these quickly. We show when we order the equipment, we're showing all device locations and all infrastructure in the different spaces. And of course, the building is 3 levels. So we start out at the ground floor. This is a slide of the phone package that was previously approved by the committee to go out and procure. So we're going to procure all the phone equipment and the routers and equipment for that. And then we move on to the first floor, and we're showing all device locations for classrooms, offices. In this case, this is the special ed program in that part of the building, the auditorium, the main office, all of the different spaces, including music, and then the classrooms going down to the Hartford pre-K program. This is
Question. I appreciate this. When you say you had to accelerate the process, are there any financial implications in doing that?
no. If anything, actually, it helps us because we want to order the equipment and have it ready to go, whether that's in storage or if it's a short lead item, then we can order it and get it right into the building as needed. So there is no financial implication of ordering it now.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. That was a great question, actually. And actually would have the opposite effect. If we didn't order the equipment now, it may have a financial impact if we couldn't get the equipment soon enough. So that's why we want to accelerate the process. This is some of the core routers and equipment, switching equipment, and some of these items are very long lead items. And this is going up to the second floor above the gymnasium, and then the north end of the building, northwest, and then the center, and then the classrooms on the second floor. And you can see in the diagram of where we are in the building. And lastly, we have a number of parts and pieces of the equipment, patch cables and switches and UPS equipment. All of this, again, would be part of that full package that we're asking or updating that we want to move forward with. This would also include a lot of the devices that you see, the iPads, the Chromebooks, all the devices also would be also in this package. So this is a full package of equipment for technology. And this is an example of one of those enlarged data rooms that we're going to be outfitting. We have several of these throughout the building where we have central location, a core of data racks and switches, and then routing that feeds the rest of the building. Kind of some of the heart of the technology in the building. We have these data rooms that will be outfit with the equipment. With that, if there are any questions, I'll turn it back over to Toya and the committee.
Yeah, I'm looking at the screen here to see if there's any questions from my colleagues.
Phil,
Mr.
thank you.
Mr. Walker.
Yeah, thank you, Phil. Yeah, thank you. Mr. Jorgensen, thanks for the feedback. I think to Chief Davis Googe, I remember us talking about this, which is why it kind of came up in my mind. I don't know, is there an action for us here today? Because my recommendation would be next time we have the discussion to maybe let's insert some trigger points into the project. Because I remember this project had some kind of, not risk, but conditions that would mean we have to celebrate this or change this around. And potentially next time we have the discussion, we put these trigger points in there. Then when we hit them, we know to reconvene and we know exactly what we're trying to hit upon. It totally makes sense that you've now found out you got this super long lead item that we come back and say, let's do it now, because we're trying to save both the budget and the actual schedule. I think that's what you're trying to do, Mr. Jorgensen.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
It helps save the schedule.
Yeah, so that's it. I mean, this is great information. I'm glad you brought us in. I would just say, yeah, next time we'll put trigger points in, or you'll tell us here's where we need to reconvene if we hit this point or hit this point in a project.
And that's exactly right, Mr. Walker. With this case, right, you were right. When we put forward the package the first time, we did talk about the phases before and the phases to come. So this is why we have although this was not an ad hoc facilities meeting, but we were here today because of the, I keep calling the extraordinary life of just a construction project, right? Especially in the midst of these times. So I think it is very helpful that we have the ad hoc committee meetings and that we will keep talking about the cycle of a project to make sure that these trigger points are happening, whether it's through this committee or possibly the Family and Community Engagement Committee.
Mhm.
And if I may, I would just like to thank this construction team. They have taken great care of the school community throughout the project. As you can imagine, the occupied renovations require a great deal of coordination. And anytime they can do anything to support the school community, they have. An example of this is they will be starting the work on the gym. And so that work will allow for students to have a gym come the winter months. So I appreciate what you're saying and the patience of, understanding when these immediate changes happen. But I just want you to know that this project team is doing the work to be proactive and keep the project on schedule.
Thank you. Any other
Thank you.
questions?
And if I may, Chairman Ricker?
Yep.
I actually did a walkthrough about 2 weeks ago and saw some of the work and was just really excited by it. So if anyone would like to do a tour of the school as where it stands now, please let us know.
I'm going to raise a hand so that I want to make a plan to visit that school. It's another school in my community. I know that it's going through this project. So yes, sign me up at some point. You can tell me when is best or whatnot.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments from the team?
Chairman
All right.
Ricker, if I may?
You have
I'm
the
not
floor.
sure we were clear about the ask of the board. Christina, are you
I was
able?
just gonna say, I just want to make sure that
Okay.
we're clear that this is going to be on the regular meeting agenda this Tuesday for the FF&E Part 3A, is it? Yeah, because we did the phones, now we're doing just Part 3A for this. Just want to make that clear.
And what would be okay. And that agenda items coming out, I'm assuming today or tomorrow?
Today, yes.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? All right. Seeing none, this committee of the whole is now adjourned. Thank you, everyone, for joining on short notice. And if you have any questions, feel free to follow up with Christina or directly with Chief Davis Gooch as it relates to the Burns project. And then again, as Superintendent mentioned, we'll make sure that everyone's email is up to date and that you're getting information in a timely manner.
Thank you all.
Have a good weekend.